Hey guys, it's JJ Peters from the Sportstown podcast. Today on the show, me and Michael will discuss JJ Watt going to the Cardinals, college hoops, are the Jazz the best team in the league, and some UFC 259 preview with Kyle Hoffman from the Pickle podcast. Go check out his channel on YouTube, subscribe, comment, leave a like, and hit that bell for notifications. Also check out his podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. I'll put a link in the description. Now, let's get to the show.
Here we go.
Alrighty, it's time for our weekly poll question, and you can go to Instagram, Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportstownPod. And the question was, does the signing of JJ Watt make the Cardinals an instant Super Bowl contender? 60% of you said, no, it does not, which I'm a little shocked it's not more. I would agree, but I thought at least 70 or 80% because I think the signing of JJ Watt is big for the Cardinals, but doesn't make them over the top because that's not their number one need. But again, thanks for voting. You can vote on Instagram and Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportstownPod. Now, time for the Sports Lightning Round. And now, time for our Sports Lightning Round, your biggest stories in the sporting world this week. The Washington football team has decided to part ways with former number one overall pick Alex Smith. Smith led Washington to playoffs in 2020 after finishing the season 7-9. The comeback player of the year threw 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and completed 66% of his passes. The former Utah product was thrown into the starting position after an injury to Kyle Allen and poor play by Dwayne Haskins. The number one overall pick in 2005 came back from a devastating injury in 2018 and helped the team reach the postseason. However, last week, Smith stated he felt Washington did not want him there and was not expecting him to make a fast recovery. For the first time in his career, Smith will be a free agent. The Miami Dolphins have not released veteran outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy just yet and are hoping to trade him instead. On Tuesday, it was reported that the Miami Dolphins were releasing the former BYU product. However, that's not the case, and the Miami Dolphins are now looking to trade Van Noy. The two-time Super Bowl champion signed a 4-year, $51 million deal, $51 million contract last offseason, and the Dolphins would save $9 million if they were to let go of the 30-year-old. Last season, Van Noy finished with 6 sacks, 46 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles. There are speculations that Van Noy could return to New England to play for the Patriots. The Minnesota Vikings have released veteran tight end Kyle Rudolph. Rudolph had been with the team since 2011 and was drafted in the second round. Rudolph was a help to the Vikings all the way until his last year in 2020. Last season, Rudolph had his worst statistical season where he had 334 yards receiving and just 1 touchdown. The former Notre Dame product has still 3 years remaining left on his contract, but Minnesota felt it was time to move on. Rudolph will be greatly missed by the Vikings and the Minnesota community, according to GM Rick Spielman. Big Ben is re-signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers for at least one more season. This move will save the Steelers $15 million, but they are still over the cap. Pittsburgh has a lot of tough decisions to make when free agency begins. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster and linebacker, Bud Dupree are both free agents this upcoming free agency and will be very expensive to bring back. However, Ben Roethlisberger will not be making his $41 million he was expected to make, so the Steelers could figure out a way to bring back both Bud Dupree and Smith-Schuster. Roethlisberger threw for 3,833 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Last season, the Steelers won the AFC North, and finished 12-4, but lost in the opening round to Cleveland. The Steelers are not expected to win their division, but anything is possible in the NFL. The Detroit Pistons have bought out Blake Griffin and is free to sign with any team in the NBA. The Pistons wanted to trade Griffin and decided to sit him on February 15th. The goal was to trade him before the deadline on March 25th. However, no team had enough interest to trade for Griffin. The 6-time All-Star not played since February 15th. The former number one overall pick by the Clippers was owed $36 million by the Pistons. That would have grown to $39 million if Detroit did not buy him out before the start of next season. The Oklahoma product had been dealing with multiple injuries this season, was averaging career lows. Stats for the former dunk contest champion this season were 12 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and 3.9 assists per game. Teams such as the Lakers, Nets, Clippers, Heat, Warriors, and Trailblazers have shown a lot of interest in Griffin. In 2018, after signing a 5-year, $171 million extension, the Clippers traded him to the Pistons in January. Griffin will most likely sign with the new team within the next week. The UFC has cut 2 heavyweight fighters. Alistair Overeem and Junior Dos Santos have been informed they will no longer be employed by the UFC. Overeem was knocked out by Alexander Volkov in February, and Junior Dos Santos was knocked out and lost his 4th straight time to Cyril Green. Dos Santos wants to fight again. However, Overeem has not responded if he will fight again. Overeem stated it's been a dream to fight in the UFC. Overeem was a former Dream Heavyweight Strikeforce and K1 kickboxing world Grand Prix champion. It'll be intriguing to see what the future holds for both heavyweight fighters. All right, I'm pleased to be joined by Micheal Mentzer, my co-host. By the way, he's got a YouTube channel, Mr. M. Don't forget to check that out, subscribe, comment, leave a like, and hit the bell for notification. How's it going, Mike?
I'm pretty good.
All right, so let's jump right into this. Of course, the big story this week was J.J. Watt going to the Arizona Cardinals. Did you expect this happening, and what was your first reaction to it?
I was really surprised, but I think it does also make sense. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, they have some needs, but I didn't really expect defensive line to be that area. And I also didn't expect J.J. Watt to go to Arizona. I didn't know he was interested in the Cardinals. According to multiple sources, um, the country singer Blake Shelton was, I guess, part of the recruiting tactic. Comedian Frank Caliendo was one of the others, I guess, that convinced him to come. And then, of course, DeAndre Hopkins, his former teammate, which leads me to believe, and a lot of people, that maybe Deshaun Watson goes to Arizona. I don't think it's going to happen, but do you think, Mike, that there's a chance Deshaun Watson lands in Arizona?
not a chance.
I don't think so either, but it's kind of interesting because the Cardinals, I guess, aren't sold on Kyler Murray, which is interesting because I thought Kyler Murray was a top tier quarterback. I guess he's not good enough, even though he's only been in the league for 2 years, which is just it just makes what I'm trying to say is it's just the way the NFL works. Like if you don't have a very good year, most likely you're going to get shipped, or there's rumors that you're going to get traded. So it's kind of crazy because the Cardinals went 8-8 last year, and Kyler Murray wasn't great a few games, and all of a sudden he's possibly on the hot seat of being a quarterback. So it's just crazy how that works. Um, are the Cardinals an instant Super Bowl contender now, Michael? Now that they added J.J. Watt?
I don't think so. I think they're still got a ways to go, but I could definitely see them making the playoffs. So,
Yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but even if they didn't add J.J. Watt, I don't think that was going to be. I think they were still going to make the playoffs if they got J.J. Watt or not. I was listening to Dan Patrick's show, I think, or it was earlier this week, and he brought in a guy that was an Arizona Cardinals sports writer, and I can't remember his name. But he went on and he basically said that he didn't think the Cardinals could afford a luxury item like J.J. Watt because defense wasn't their main priority. It was offense, maybe another wide receiver, an offensive line, tight end, running back. And he even suggested that quarterback could be a need, which we already went into. But it's just interesting how the Arizona Cardinals signed J.J. Watt to a pretty big contract, and that might have been the reason why he went to Arizona. But it's just intriguing to see what he did. And the Arizona Cardinals clearly have a lot of needs to do in free agency. I just think that they might have reached getting J.J. Watt. What do you think the Cardinals need to do in free agency in the draft, Michael, to take that next step?
I think the biggest thing that they need is to get someone opposite Patrick Peterson, possibly a linebacker, and then I think offensive linemen and wide receivers.
I would think right now offensive line is the main priority. Then I'd probably say another linebacker. I would suggest they might try to go for another receiver. If Jamari Chase or Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith is still available, I think they're going to pounce on that. Um, I think they could go for a corner, but I think later in the draft they have some money left in free agency too, so it's going to be interesting what they do. in about 2 weeks from now when free agency begins. But I think if I was them, I would definitely go offensive line, running back, maybe another corner, maybe another linebacker, and see what you can do in the draft and draft like maybe like a Wyatt Davis or someone like that. Um, are the Cardinals the best team in the NFC West, Mike?
Uh, Personally, I don't think so yet. I think if the Seahawks get Russell Wilson back, I think they're still pretty good. I think the Rams are definitely the team to beat though, and then the 49ers are also still really good. They just had a lot of injuries.
Well, yeah, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are the best team in that division. They might even be the second best team, but we all know the Rams are going to be the best. They got Matt Stafford. They finally have that missing piece. Um, but I expect the Cardinals to be that second best team. I think they're going to leapfrog the Seahawks because, again, we don't know if Russell Wilson's going to even be there, which is crazy to think. And then, of course, on the other side, there's the 49ers. The Niners, if they could figure out their quarterback situation, I think that's when they would be really scary. But at the moment, it looks like Garoppolo will be the starter, which I think the Niners are going to stay at the same place if they continue to have Garoppolo as the quarterback. But I think the Cardinals are right now the second best team in the NFC West. All right, one more question or last question before we switch gears to college hoops. JJ Watt went to Arizona. Do you think it was mostly because of the money?
No, I think there's a lot of reasons to think could have been part of it. I think he also wanted to go to like a team that won't waste his career, and I also think that having DeAndre Hopkins there also probably influenced him too.
Yeah, I don't think it was exactly all about the money. I think it was a little about lifestyle. I think he saw the Cardinals were making some moves and he liked. I think he thinks that the cart with him signing with the Cardinals, that's going to convince um other veterans to come over to Arizona and take a cheaper deal. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but Arizona, it's always nice weather, so maybe that entices him. And it seems like the Cardinals are going to go to the playoffs after this year. All right, so let's start off. Let's head to college hoops. It seems like Gonzaga is unbeatable. Do you, Michael, think Gonzaga loses before the NCAA tournament begins?
No,
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I think it's just gonna be so hard for a team to beat Gonzaga, especially with I'm not trying to dog on Gonzaga, but they play in a very weak conference. And yes, they had some tough games and they took care of them. Like they beat Iowa by 11 points when Iowa was ranked like fifth at the time. So they're a good team, but I just think that they don't have their conference isn't very good. And I just couldn't see them. There's even a chance that Gonzaga could go undefeated going all the way to the Final Four, really without having a tough game because they've had such an easy schedule. And because by the time they start playing tough teams, they're going to be more fresh. So again, I don't the Gonzaga has a very good chance of making it at least to the Final Four, if not the championship game, and then finally having a tough one. Um, right now, who's your sleeper team to maybe make a run in the tournament, Michael?
I think any team in the Big Ten or Big 12 could probably be uh has a good chance just because the Big Ten and Big 12 are both so overrated that we overlook a lot of good teams there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of shocked how good the Big Ten and Big 12 are and how weak the ACC is because normally it's the ACC and Big Ten and then maybe Big 12, but the Big 12 and Big Ten have really stepped up this year, especially with Michigan, Illinois, and Iowa and Ohio State. I think they're all in the top 10. And the ACC has maybe one team in the top 10, that's Florida State. So it's just crazy how that works. And of course, Kansas and Baylor, that's going to be a fun matchup. Most likely they'll meet in the championship game. Speaking of Kansas and Baylor, do you think, say Baylor ends up winning that conference, they beat Kansas in the Big 12 championship game. Do you think Kansas and Baylor both get a number one seed in the NCAA tournament?
I think whoever wins the Big 12 championship is going to get the one seed.
Okay. So do you have two or I think you were talking earlier and you said you thought probably two teams from the Big Ten will get in as number one seeds. Do you still believe that?
I think it's either going to be two Big Ten teams or two Big 12 teams.
Okay. Yeah, that's understandable. You're an Iowa fan, so you've been really up to date with Big Ten basketball. Who do you like winning that conference this year?
Uh, I think Michigan would probably be my pick at least, but I could see Illinois or Iowa both
Yeah, I
possibly
mean,
winning.
yeah, it seems like Illinois came out of nowhere because I don't think Illinois was very good last year, were they?
Not that I remember, no.
No, it seems like they came out of nowhere. I know they used to be good back in the day, but that was a long time ago. I don't remember Illinois ever being good. So it's crazy how Illinois was able to take such a big leap to being so good. Iowa seems like they have the best player in college basketball. Do you think there's anybody close to Luka Garza?
No.
No, you don't think guys like Cade Cunningham and Jalen Suggs and um, you don't think those guys are even close to Luka Garza?
Not even close.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because Luka Garza has been in Iowa for a while, but he's transformed himself into a very good big man, probably the best player in college. Well, not probably the best college basketball player in basketball. Do you think he has the same success in the NBA that he did in college?
Not necessarily. I think uh it's going to take a year or two for him to get used to it, and then I think he'll probably will have a solid couple of years, but I don't personally think he's going to be anything like superstar worthy or all-star worthy.
Yeah, I think his game is more for college level, and I think it's going to be hard for him to switch to the NBA. And there was even reports that he might not even get drafted, which I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen because he's probably going to win the Naismith and Wooden. And when's the last time a guy won both those awards and wasn't even selected? I mean, Jalen Brunson a few years ago for Villanova was selected in the second round by the Mavericks after being College Player of the Year. So I could definitely see that with Luka Garza. But yeah, I think I don't think there's anybody even close to the skill to Iowa's skilled big man. Got a few more questions before we switch gears again. Right now, who do you like as your championship, and who do you like winning?
For a championship, I think it's going to be probably Michigan and Gonzaga, and I think Gonzaga is probably going to win.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal Gonzaga from you, of course, because Gonzaga is Gonzaga, and I just can't see him losing right now. But I don't know if I like Michigan in the championship game. I thought I did, but I think I changed my mind. To be honest with you, I think Gonzaga, Michigan both make the Final Four, but I think Gonzaga makes that leap in the championship game. Right now, I'm gonna say they go ahead and beat Kansas just because I think Kansas will have a big run. I don't necessarily like Kansas, but I like the way they're built. And there's a very good chance that Kansas, even if they don't get a number one seed, could run the table and go all the way to the championship game. But again, I don't think they match up even close to Gonzaga. Gonzaga wins by at least 10 points. Um, right now, what team? Well, actually, since the ACC is just not very good this year, do you think Duke makes it to the NCAA tournament this year?
I think they probably will, but they'll be like a really low seed, like just barely.
What about Kentucky? Because it seems like they have a less chance of making it. And I was even listening to Jay Billis from ESPN, and he said that Kentucky would have to win the SEC in order for them to even reach the NCAA tournament. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think Kentucky's going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, to be honest with you, I might be a little biased here. I'm a Louisville fan, so that kind of gives me joy, to be honest with you, of not having Kentucky in the tournament. Well, we haven't seen that since what 2013 when they played in the NIT. That's gonna be really weird, especially if Duke doesn't make it, which there's a good chance that Duke is gonna make it. All right, let's get to our topic in the NBA. Are the Utah Jazz for real, Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, no one even thought they'd have the best record in the league right now. Everybody thought it'd be the Lakers or the Clippers, and the Jazz and Suns are the top two teams right now. What's the recipe for success for both Utah and Phoenix?
I think for the Jazz, they got two really good players. I think Gobert and Mitchell are a great combo, and then they got a lot of supporting players too. And then for the Suns, I think that they just got a lot of really good young players who just need a little bit to develop.
Well, I think that's why they brought in Chris Paul, and I think he's done an excellent job. He made the All Star game. I'm not sure I really agree with that, but if you watch a lot of Suns basketball games, you'll see how good Chris Paul is and um, how impactful he has been to the players, and I think that's been a really help. He's basically like a coach on the court. So Chris Paul's done an excellent job, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Suns have the number 2 seed. Why didn't the Lakers and Clippers? I know the Lakers have been injured a lot. You know, LeBron didn't play against the Kings on Wednesday night. Anthony Davis has been out for a while. It seems like he's going to be out again until at least a week after the All Star break. What do you think the problem is with the LA Clippers, Mike?
I think they just are in a really tough division is the biggest thing. I don't necessarily think that they're playing bad or like I just think it's because they're in like such a tough division that they're going to lose a lot of more games than they probably should.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how that works because the Clippers, like I said, I still have them as a final prediction, but I think they have what? They're 24 and 14 now, and they're barely having the 4 seed, so they're trying to hold on to that seed right now. It seems like the Lakers and Clippers, might not they could both be very low seeds. That hasn't happened in a while, especially with LeBron. The last time LeBron, the lowest seed he ever had was what? A few years ago, or not the lowest seed he ever had, but the lowest seed since the last 5 years was when he was with the Cavs. Of course, they made the finals, but they got swept. But it'd be really weird to see LeBron as a 3 or 4 seed. Right now, who's your MVP prediction as we head to the All Star break here on Sunday?
My MVP prediction, I think, would probably be I think Luka's definitely should be considered. I think Harden or Kyrie should also uh get some attention. Uh I think if I had to pick, it'd probably be either Kyrie or Harden.
Well, right now, my prediction, I think it's Joel Embiid's to lose. Earlier in the season, before they had all their injury concerns, it was LeBron. But right now, it's clearly Joel Embiid's to lose. Now, you mentioned Luka Gar, or geez, I said it again. You mentioned Luka Doncic. I agree with that, but I think the Mavs are in the playoffs currently. But I think they need to get to that 6 seed for him to even be considered. So I think he makes it the All NBA first team, but not the MVP. And then I think Jokic has had a great season, but similar to Luka, they got to start winning more basketball games for him to even be on Joel Embiid's level. So right now it is Joel Embiid's to lose. Right now I like the Nets and Clippers in the finals. Who do you like matching up in the finals this summer, Mike?
I think it's going to be Nets and probably the Jazz.
Wow, so you have the Jazz going to the finals. That's crazy.
Yeah, I do. I think as of now, I think the Clippers kind of and Lakers struggles have kind of been scaring me a little bit, and then I think the Suns are could potentially make it. I just think that they're a little too inexperienced, and I think that yeah, they're just not experienced enough to win. And I think the Jazz are kind of have a little bit more experienced team. You know, Gobert and Donovan Mitchell have been playing together for a while, so
Well, I think come playoff team, LeBron is going to be LeBron and Kawhi both. They're going to be just on a different uh, planet. So I still have them both meeting in the Western Conference Finals, no matter what seed they are, as long as they don't play in the second round before the conference finals. But yeah, I still like the Clippers and Nets, and I got the Clippers taking down the Nets in a grueling 7 game series. Kawhi Leonard is your MVP. Of course, this Sunday, Mike, the All Star game is upon us. Are you going to be watching the festivities this year?
I'm pretty sure I have to work, so probably not.
Okay. You probably won't miss much, but it's going to be intriguing to see the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, and the skills challenge all in one day with the All Star game. That's going to be interesting. It's also going to be intriguing to see if we see any fans or spectators, despite the mayor's warnings against going to it. So I don't know if the NBA actually wanted to have fans or not, but I'm still not sure. So I think that's still game time decision. What player do you think was most screwed? Or actually, let's start with this. So the All Star draft was on Thursday. LeBron and Durant both took their players. What team do you like in that to win, Mike?
I think the team LeBron is going to win.
His team is pretty stacked. I mean, what he's got: Giannis, Luca, Jokic, Steph Curry. I mean, he's got a pretty stacked team now. Kevin Durant, of course, has Kawhi Leonard, the 2020 All Star MVP from a season ago. He's got his teammate Kyrie. He's also got James Harden coming off the bench. So I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think LeBron's what 3-0 doing it. So it's going to be hard for Durant to win, but I think he's got a great chance to win. A few more questions before we wrap this up. Um, do the Warriors make the playoffs, Michael?
I think they will. I just think that they're going to be a lower seed.
Well, right now the Warriors are out of the playoffs, which is crazy to even think. But I think all those injuries and Steph Curry, I think, isn't 100%, which is crazy because he's been balling this year. Do you think the Warriors do anything before or during the trade deadline to help out Curry?
Uh, I think they could maybe try and trade for like another like I guess like player to like go on this like to help Curry out. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been rumors that Bradley Beal has been on the has been mentioned, which I don't think that would be a bad move, but he's, I think, a free agent at the end of the season. And would he want to return to Golden State when you already have Klay Thompson coming back? I'm not sure that would work. And the Warriors would have to give up a lot for basically a rental. So I think Bradley Beal's a guy to watch. Of course, now Blake Griffin is a free agent, so the Warriors might be looking at him. Speaking of Blake Griffin, what team do you think he lands on, Michael?
I do actually kind of think the Warriors would be a good fit for him. Uh, Other than that, I can maybe see him going to like the Warriors.
Well, there's a few teams I could see him going to: the Warriors, the Lakers. He could go back to the Clippers, the Heat, the Trailblazers. I just read a few columns on Bleacher Report, ESPN, and I think it was SB Nation or something. They really like him going to the Warriors or the Lakers, which would be intriguing to see because I'm not sure how well Griffin would fit with the Warriors. I think he'd be a better fit with the Lakers. I don't think he's going back to the Clippers. I just don't. But I definitely think he's going back West Coast, just not with the Clippers. Let's finish it off here. Right now, what team do you like? Or not, I should rephrase that. What game are you most, or what team are you most intrigued about to finish the regular season, Michael?
Well, obviously I'm a Bucks fan, so I definitely think that's going to be the most intriguing team for me. But outside of that, I think I'm kind of intrigued by the Suns just because I don't know if they're gonna, like I said, they're very talented, but they're inexperienced. I think another team that I'm kind of interested in is the Blazers too.
Yeah, the Blazers are doing pretty good despite all the injuries to CJ McCollum, Yusuf Nurkic, Zach Collins. So it's basically Dame Lillard and a bunch of no names now. Of course, Melo's playing, but he's off the bench and he's not the same. So yeah, it's really weird, that team. And I think Damian Lillard, if he has a chance, he should leave. He probably won't. But yeah, hashtag get that guy some help. All right. The most intriguing team for me to watch this year at the end of, at to start see the part two of the season. I think the Sixers are going to be intriguing to see. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons have been having great seasons. Again, Joel Embiid, in my opinion, is the front runner for MVP. So it's going to be intriguing to see if they can improve and still take that number one seed despite Brooklyn only being a half game out. And then on the Western side of things, I'm definitely going to look at the Memphis Grizzlies. They're out of the playoffs right now, but I think led by Ja Morant, if they can continue to win basketball games, get the ball to Ja Morant, and if another player can step up to help out the reigning rookie of the year, the Grizzlies, I think, are going to make the playoffs. So again, the East, my most intriguing team is the Sixers, and the West, it's the Grizzlies. All right, Michael, do you have anything to say about your YouTube channel before we end the conversation?
I got some things coming up, and yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So you should subscribe.
Yes, guys. Again, don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Like, review. I guess you don't need to review, but like and hit the bell for notifications. I'll put a link down in the description below. All right. Thanks, Michael. And once again, have a wonderful day and stay out of trouble.
Thanks, you too, man.
Yep. And again, that's a wrap. Let's now go to the UFC 259 with Kyle Hoffman. All right, I'm pleased to be joined by Kyle Hoffman of the Pickle Podcast to talk or to discuss some UFC 259 talk. How's it going, Kyle?
It's going great, man. I am super excited for the fights coming up here on Saturday. How are you feeling about it so far?
I'm feeling pretty excited. This is a really big fight, and the card is pretty stacked. It's kind of crazy how Amanda Nunes most of the time would be a main event, and she's a co-main event. So
Right. And
that's how
actually,
stacked this is.
this actually is piecing up to be one of the greatest cards of the year. Some people are saying it's one of the greatest cards of all time. I don't think so, but I think it's going to be up there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So the first question I got for you, or actually we'll start with the first fight here. Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic. Who wins this fight and how many rounds does it last?
Well, I think Rakic wins this fight. He'll be throwing a lot of super brutal leg kicks, as you've seen with him in previous matches. He's just cutting the legs out of people and sending them to the floor. He has a lot of dynamic upper body strength that I don't think Santos has. They kind of match up well as far as their skill set, but fighting John Jones, I think, took a lot out of Santos, and I don't think he's going to be the same fighter. And I think Rakic is really hungry. I think that he's actually eyeing some sort of a title shot in the near future. I think Rakic will come ready to take it against Santos, and I don't think Santos is going to be quite ready for an up and comer with that wide of a skill set. I think that Rakic definitely takes it in early rounds. So,
who do you like in this matchup?
One of the things I like about this matchup is Santos is actually coming off a loss, and Rakic is coming off a win. Rakic also has a reach and height advantage, and I think a 4 to 6 inch kicking advantage. So, like I said, his massive kicking advantage is going to work well against Santos. He does flying knees. He's very quick. So it'll be interesting to see if Santos's veteran spirit gets him through this fight, especially because Rakic is coming for that title shot, like I said.
All right, that makes a lot of sense here. On to the next one. If Santos wins, who would be his next fight?
To be honest, I think Glover Teixeira deserves a shot at the number 1 ranking. It would be a good veteran matchup, I think, to have Santos against Teixeira. I could see it as a fight night headliner in the near future, not necessarily a UFC main card matchup, but I can see it as a fight night headliner. Or he could even fight Blachowicz if Blachowicz loses to Adesanya on Saturday night.
All right, let's go on to the next fight here. Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. Who do you like in this fight?
My thoughts are Makhachev is facing his first ranked opponent in the UFC, and Dana White traditionally likes to move these guys on a little bit slowly when they're coming in, especially a talented fighter like Makhachev. He will be ready to make a statement against Drew Dober on Saturday night. Dober was repeatedly taken down by Beneil Dariush when they faced each other last fall, and I don't think he's going to be able to withstand the ground pressure of Makhachev. Dober is far less well-rounded fighter than Makhachev in this match, JJ, and I just don't see it lasting very long.
All right. How many rounds does this fight last?
I could see it going 1 to 2 rounds, but it may go the distance. If he's not able to put Dober out, it might go the distance. Either way, it's going to be a Khabib-like performance from him on Saturday night.
Speaking of Khabib, with Makhachev being Nurmagomedov's buddy, could you see him being the next Khabib? Because of course he is lightweight as well. So,
right, yeah, I don't see him or anyone in the near future being the next Khabib, quote unquote. But I do see him being a force in the lightweight division now that he's getting ranked opponents. I mean, maybe in a year or two from now, he might be at that level where we can start talking about him, putting him in the same category as Khabib. But Khabib, like is just a whole nother animal. It doesn't hurt that he trains with Khabib on a daily basis and that they're really good friends. But I don't think he's quite there yet to be in the same category as Khabib. However, I think he is going to make waves, and he'll probably go on a winning streak if he wins this fight tonight.
All right. If Makhachev wins, who would be his next fight?
I think Michael Chandler seems to be a good matchup with Makhachev. I can see Dana White making that fight happen, even though Chandler seems to be a little bit picky about his fights. I think it'd be a nice matchup because they both have sort of the same skill set. Makhachev being that ground and pound fighter that's going to put you in a submission or just beat you all night long. And Michael Chandler is just a physical specimen who has all the right moves, super quick. That would be an interesting matchup, and that would be a great fight to watch. I'd love to see that fight.
You were talking about Michael Chandler. It seems like it seems like he is kind of a picky fighter, but it seems like he wants to fight either McGregor or Justin Gaethje next. Do you think there is a chance that he fights those guys over a Makhachev, or?
I could see him getting a fight over Makhachev against Justin Gaethje. I think he would match up well against Gaethje, considering what Khabib was able to do against Justin Gaethje. So I think Dana White would love that fight. It's not outside the realm of possibility, JJ.
All right. Before we move on to the next fight, it seems like we'll just stick with the lightweight division. It seems like Dustin Poirier is probably going to get a championship fight here very soon. Do you think Charles Oliveira would be his next opponent?
I think he probably will be his next opponent. It's been a while since Dustin Poirier, I think, fought a Brazilian. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup if they do fight each other. Poirier being that strong-handed fighter with the heavy punches, and Oliveira being that ground and pound fighter who can also, he's also a black belt. I believe he's also a Muay Thai champion, but who isn't a Muay Thai champion at this point? I think that could be a great fight. I actually see Dustin Poirier probably winning that fight. I don't think Oliveira would be able to do to him on the ground what he's done to other opponents. I think Dustin Poirier is a heavy fighter, and I don't think he's going to be able to roll around with Dustin Poirier and dominate like he has before. I think Dustin Poirier has an answer for that, and I see Dustin Poirier probably winning that fight, but I see it being a great fight if they do take that matchup.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty pumped up with Poirier's next fight, and he was on Joe Rogan recently, and he kind of mentioned that he would want Charles Oliveira, and he believes that he should be the next opponent.
He's definitely deserving of it.
Yeah, I mean, especially what Oliveira did to Ferguson in his last fight, which was pretty crazy.
Which was really crazy. You are right about that.
Let's go on to the next fight. Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. What's your predictions for this fight?
Sterling, it's interesting, this fight, because Sterling traditionally does better against quote unquote tough matchups than he does facing an opponent that he's already underestimated. That's sort of the psychology that I've noticed out of Sterling. Sterling's going to come ready for this fight, and his talent and quickness, I think, is going to win a decision, and I think it's going to earn him the bantamweight title. I think Jan is probably maybe underestimating Sterling a little bit. From what I've seen from Sterling, he's completely dynamic in the way he fights, and I think that he's going to go into this fight knowing that he's going to have a challenge, and it's going to give him the advantage in that fight psychologically.
All right. How long? Well, actually, let's just skip that one, or no, we'll start with that one. How long does this fight last?
I could definitely see the fight going the distance, but I can also see Sterling getting the TKO. I don't think he's going to completely put his opponent out, but I can see Sterling winning by TKO. If he doesn't, I can see it going the distance.
Is there anybody else in the bantamweight division that could take down Jan or Sterling?
I've seen a lot of good things from Corey Sandhagen. I think that maybe sometimes he has bad nights, but I think Corey Sandhagen definitely has the talent to do it. Rafael dos Santos definitely might deserve a shot, or even Cody Garbrandt. All these guys match up well against these two. I like the competitiveness of this division. I would especially like to see Cody Garbrandt get in there and make waves again. I love watching him fight.
All right. Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. This doesn't really seem like much of a fight. Assuming Nunes wins, how long do you think this fight lasts?
Well, not long, because Megan Anderson relies on her ground and pound to get the job done in most fights. And I think Amanda Nunes might even be more superior than her on the ground. Nunes might not be able to head kick Megan Anderson like she likes to do because of her height and the threat of a takedown, but she will definitely piece her up in early rounds. And I don't see this lasting past the first round, JJ.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. I don't think there's really anybody that can match up right now with Amanda Nunes, which brings me to my next question. We were talking about this earlier yesterday. Is there a chance that Ronda Rousey maybe comes back and fights Nunes?
Funny you should say that. My answer is going to be no, JJ. Ronda Rousey should probably protect her face at all costs, just for the sole sake of her pro wrestling career. As you know, she has a fully sustainable ranch, and I just don't think her fighting style is sustainable at this point. A lot of people in that division are preparing for Amanda Nunes becoming better strikers, and I just think that her style is outdated, and wouldn't be able to come back and compete with Nunes, let alone a lot of people in that division, even though she has great wrestling.
Does Nunes seems like she is the greatest female fighter of all time. Is there anybody in MMA history or just the UFC that even comes close to her?
Just as far as females are speaking, I think had Chris Cyborg been younger during the Nunes fight, it would have been a more interesting fight. But I don't think anybody comes close to Nunes in what she's been able to do. She's the best in the world, best female fighter there is. If you're talking about comparing her pound per pound against all male fighters, she's almost like a young John Jones at this point. She's just dominating every single fight. We know what to expect from her, and we know what to expect from John Jones at this fight too. At this point too.
So pretty much like Amanda Nunes is like the Tiger Woods of the UFC, pretty much, right? For females.
Pretty much, only minus. And I just wanted to also say that it stinks that Tiger Woods did get into that car accident too. I want to wish him well in a safe recovery. I hope that he's able to come back too. So,
yeah, prayers out to Tiger, and hopefully he gets, hopefully he gets better. It feels like he's getting better now, and just prayers for his family, especially as well. So
definitely, he's got the best doctors in the world, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Who will be the next for both fighters, assuming Nunes gets this one?
Well, I think Megan Anderson, after she loses this fight, is probably going to end up fighting someone like Holly Holm. Nunes could end up fighting Jermaine Durandamy again. Remember, those two went 5 rounds the last time they fought. So I can see, a card headliner for those two again. I think a rematch is totally possible between those two, considering there isn't really anybody else in that division that's going to go up against Nunes and have a chance.
All right, let's get to the main event. Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Who comes up on top, and how long does it last?
Well, Adesanya is making a huge risk coming up in weight, especially against someone with the power that Blachowicz has. Adesanya is going to be running at times during this fight in order to keep his game plan. He did say that he was going to use his speed, so he plans on using his speed to stay away from Jan Blachowicz. I see Jan taking this fight in later rounds because I don't think Adesanya is going to be able to finish Blachowicz. If either Adesanya gets tied up with Blachowicz like Luke Rockhold did during this fight, he's going to be in big trouble. The champion has to stay away from Jan Blachowicz if he wants to get this double belt. This fight's either going to go 5 rounds to Adesanya, or it's going to be a Blachowicz knockout. So that's how I see that going.
All right. What do both fighters need to do in order to take the belt?
And, Adesanya needs to keep his distance and lure Blachowicz in with that straightforward style and win with his counter striking. Oftentimes you see Blachowicz take a 1-2 punch inside and then follow up with a head kick or a body kick, which he's really good at. Adesanya won't be able to chase, or Adesanya won't chase Jan in this fight. Blachowicz needs to do what he does best, throw some kick combos after his initial attacks. He should also try and get Adesanya against the cage where he can be absolutely lethal. Like I said, Adesanya is not going to want to get close to Blachowicz in this fight for more than a split second. He may be running at times, but I do see Jan winning this fight.
You said earlier that Adesanya is taking a risk moving up to fight Blachowicz. Was he smart to take this fight?
Israel Adesanya, all credit given to him. He's smart in anything he does, right? So he can always lose this fight, and people are still going to give him the benefit of the doubt that it was a difficult move to move up in weight. He really has nothing to lose in this fight. He's already dominated most of his opponents. Losing to Blachowicz is not going to be a gash on his record. So look for Israel Adesanya to be relaxed on Saturday night, maybe even too relaxed for Jan Blachowicz.
Okay. If Blachowicz wins this fight, who would be his next fight, and vice versa for Adesanya?
Well, we'll start with Adesanya. I think that the trend in that division, when people tend to move up or down, they tend to hold that division in a hostage situation. I honestly could see Adesanya moving back down to middleweight and fighting Jared Cannonier or possibly even Marvin Vettori. If you remember, Marvin Vettori actually gave Adesanya one of the best contests of his life and actually gave him a lot of problems, especially on the ground, was able to control him. I think Costa and Whitaker will happen at some point too in that division, but I don't see either of them facing Adesanya in the near future. If he stays at light heavyweight, he could possibly fight Santos or Reyes as well.
All right, let's step away from UFC 259 for just a sec. But Francis Ngannou takes down Miocic at UFC 260. Does he end up fighting John Jones?
I think that would be great. But they'll have to pay John Jones a lot of money. Like we've talked about before, I don't think John Jones traditionally gets a big draw in the UFC. He's not that kind of guy because people know what to expect from him. But Dana White could make this happen based off the hype of that matchup. Just think about Ngannou versus Jones, how much excitement that could drum up in the UFC and MMA community. That would be a moneymaker fight. It might even be the highest grossing pay-per-view of all time if we were able to get Ngannou and Jones in the same ring before they're past their prime. Jones is getting there. He's getting up in age, and Ngannou is really coming into his own. I think it's a fight that Dana White has to make at some point.
Yeah, you just mentioned it actually. John, you said John Jones isn't a big moneymaker just by himself, even though he's one of the biggest UFC fighter, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. Why do you think that is?
Well, we know what to expect from Jones at this point. I don't think it has as much to do with his reputation as it does for the fact that John Jones is going to come out and do the same thing he always does against all these fighters. Dominic Reyes came close to maybe winning a decision against Jones, but that 5th round, he came back and showed what he does. So I don't think people are looking for any surprises from Jones. I think that's why he doesn't get a huge draw. But like I said, if he fights someone like Francis Ngannou, that could be a huge draw for the UFC. Likewise, if he faced someone like Cyril Gane, who is really coming on strong at this point, has a lot of hype behind him, that would not even be as big of a draw as Ngannou versus Jones. So I can see Cyril Gane getting a shot against John Jones at some point before he goes on to fight Ngannou.
Okay. Last but not least, what is your dream fight in the future for the UFC?
Well, I think John Jones versus Francis Ngannou is definitely number one. I would also love to see Adesanya versus John Jones at light heavyweight or something like that. But Cyril Gane versus John Jones is also an interesting one. Remember, Cyril Gane just dominated Jairzinho Rozenstruik in amazing fashion. Really, Rozenstruik was no threat for him in that match, and Ngannou was able to take out Rozenstruik pretty early. So if Cyril Gane can improve just a little bit in his game, at some point, I think he could possibly even fight Ngannou since they are massive individuals.
All right. I don't think I have any other questions on the UFC or on UFC 259. Of course, you're the host of the Pickle podcast. Can you explain, or actually, can you tell us more about your latest episode from the Pickle podcast?
Well, our latest episode is with the Young Creatives. They're a film production company in town, 2 young 25-year-old guys who just won a London Film Festival award for Best Short Film for their film Wake Up. You can see links to their video and their film on the Pickle Podcast page, as well as Young Creatives on Facebook. And this coming Saturday, not this Saturday, but the one after next, we have local popular comedian Mitch Banks coming on to do what he does best and make us all laugh super hard. So we're really excited to have Mitch Banks on. Andrew Jones is really excited to have Mitch on. He's done a lot of comedy with Mitch. So it's going to be a great time. And we're going to have that live on Facebook and YouTube next Tuesday night.
Okay. Guys, don't forget to check out his channel, subscribe, comment, leave a like, and hit the bell for notifications. All right. Thanks for coming on, Kyle.
Thanks as always, JJ. Had a great time.
Yep. We always love talking about UFC with you. So it's been a pleasure. And once again, thanks for coming on and have a great day.
You too, buddy. We'll see you Saturday night.
Yep. Sounds good.